It's time for tough talking as a top-level Iraqi delegation visits Ankara. Turkey's president says Iraq needs to take on the PKK fighters, and his patience is running out. Is this the last chance for diplomacy before the tanks roll across the border? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Darren Jordan. Iraq is sending a high-level delegation to Ankara in a last-ditch effort to stave off Turkish military action against PKK fighters. Turkey's demands of Baghdad are simple. Do something about the PKK or we'll do it ourselves. Ankara brands the Kurdish guerrillas as terrorists, and the Prime Minister says he has the right to take action. So, with Turkey's troops massing on the border, can diplomacy win the day? And our Verji has more on the deepening crisis.
Turkish soldiers along the Iraqi border, just part of growing military action in the area. On Wednesday, Turkey reportedly attacked Kurdish fighters' positions along the border in its attempt to crush Kurdish separatists from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. This just days after Kurdish fighters claimed to have kidnapped 8 Turkish soldiers, shown here on Kurdish television. Reports Turkish officials deny. Although it is massing some 100,000 troops, Ankara says its moves are small-scale activities, not a large-scale incursion Iraq and other countries fear, and says it's counting on its neighbor to stop the PKK or face economic sanctions.
If they will keep on feeding the terror group in northern Iraq, and if they do not keep up the promises they give, then we have our international rights. We will definitely use those rights, and no one can stop us.
Promises that come as the situation between Turkey and the PKK in Iraq's north become increasingly tense. Iraq worries Turkish military action could threaten the entire country and promises to help stop the crisis. But some say only the United States can solve a problem they claim it's helped create.
Needless to say that America is behind all what's going on, as it provides the PKK with weapons and protects them in northern Iraq. The USA has the keys to a solution.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice will meet with Turkish leaders in Ankara next week, all part of increasing diplomatic efforts in an attempt to prevent further military action.
Well, the PKK's strength is estimated between 5,000 and 10,000 members. Their forces were much smaller when the party was founded in 1978, seeking to achieve autonomy in southeastern Turkey. The PKK was the most formidable opposition force in Turkey, waging a bloody guerrilla war from 1984 to 1999 that claimed around 35,000 lives. Their leader, Abdullah Öcalan, was captured in Kenya 8 years ago and was convicted of high treason. During the trial, Öcalan renounced most of the ideas the PKK stood for and ordered his guerrilla fighters to lay down their arms. The PKK declared a ceasefire in 2000, but it only lasted for 4 years. Well, joining us now are guests from Duhok in Iraqi Kurdistan. Fahad Amin Atroshi, he's a lecturer at the College of Law and Politics at the University of Duhok. From Ankara, Haldun Solmazturk, a retired brigadier general in the Turkish army. And in Doha, Scott Bates, vice president of the Centre for National Policy. Gentlemen, welcome to the programme. Haldun Solmazturk in Ankara, let me come to you first, if I may. I mean, Turkish troops have already carried out small attacks and air raids into northern Iraq. Does this mean that the diplomacy has failed, do you think?
No, I don't think so. Actually, this is the high time for diplomacy to work, I believe. After all, we are in the middle of a crisis management, and several actors, various actors, are involved in this management. So far, Turkish government and the Turkish army have shown great restraint, and the United States has actively involved, and both the European Union and individual states within the Union have suggested restraint, and now the visiting high-level Iraqi delegation can be taken as an indication of the sincere stance adopted by the Iraqi government. So at the end of the day, I'm not that pessimistic, rather optimistic to arrive at a
Well, let's bring in
solution, I believe.
Okay, let's get a reaction now from northern Iraq and bring in Farhad Atroshi there. Some critics say that any incursion by Turkey also undermines the very idea of an autonomous Kurdish region. I mean, how do the Kurds of northern Iraq feel about an invasion?
Thank you for having me. Actually, any incursion by the Turkish army into Kurdistan of Iraq will be undermining the sovereignty of Iraq first, and then the sovereignty or the autonomy which the Kurdish region has from 1991. And I think this is against international law and against the Charter of the United Nations, which has been approved by all the nations over the world, including Turkey as a republic. So I believe that any incursion by the Turkish army into the northern Iraq will be undermining our sovereignty. And the Iraqi government in Baghdad, the federal Iraqi government, is responsible for defending this land and keeping these borders from any incursion, whether it's from Turkey or from Iran or from any other country.
Scott Bates in Doha, let's bring you in here because this high-level Iraqi delegation, as Haldan Sozmal-Turk says, is expected to arrive, or this delegation from Iraq is expected to arrive in Turkey. How blunt will Ankara be about what they expect from Baghdad, do you think?
Well, I've got to believe that the Turkish side is going to be very blunt indeed and say that these kind of attacks need to stop or there'll be further action. So far, the strikes have been limited in nature, but we are all hoping that the Iraqis get the message and crack down on the PKK on their side of the border.
Let me stay with you for a second, Scott, because the PKK are hidden in the mountainous regions of northern Iraq. The Turkish military are never really going to be able to flush them out, are they? I mean, they're using guerrilla tactics.
You know, I wish I could tell my Turkish friends right now, learn from American mistakes, avoid a land invasion and in a big scale into Iraq. It wouldn't work as a military measure, and if you're really bent on defeating the PKK, you have to use counterinsurgency. You have to not be humiliating the Iraqi side, and you really need to avoid a large-scale invasion. Perhaps working with the Iraqi government in small counterinsurgency teams, that would be the way to go to take on the PKK.
Haldan Sozmal-Turk in Ankara. So some lessons could be learnt there from the Americans, but this high-level Iraqi delegation has now arrived in Turkey. What exactly will Ankara be looking for from the Iraqis?
I think the visit itself, such a high-level visit, headed by the defense minister himself, and also reportedly the Kurdish entity in the north is also represented, itself is an indication that the Iraqi central government is determined, at least they have an intention to cooperate sincerely with Turkey to secure the border area. Beyond that, I think the Turkish government would at least expect some concrete measures taken along the Turkish-Iraqi border to ensure that no further attacks could be launched by PKK from the Iraqi territory.
Farhad Atroshi in Duhok. In the 1990s, the PKK seemed to roll back their demands for an independent Kurdish state, and they would call for more autonomy for the Kurds. What are they trying to achieve now? What is it exactly that they want?
If just you give me a second to comment on what our friend has said in Ankara, that he wants no further incursion or no further infiltration by the PKK fighters into Turkish soil. I think he knows, and the Turkish government knows better than us, that we and the Turkish government and the Turkish army have fought these fighters, PKK fighters, in 1992 and in 1996 for several years, and we couldn't eliminate them, and they are still there. I think they know this fact better than us. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes, I mean, what exactly are they trying to achieve now?
The PKK, what I understood from their revision after the capture of Abdullah Öcalan in 1999 in Kenya, they have revised their what we call it the party ideology and the party program, and now they are asking for cultural rights, and they are asking for rights within the borders of Turkey, whether in terms of federalism or in terms of confederation with the Turkish Republic, not more than that. And this is what I understood. But even the PKK is claiming that we in the northern part of Iraq, which is the Kurdistan of Iraq, and we have our own government now, which is KRG, Kurdistan Regional Government. We do not believe in violence. We believe that the use of violence is not going to solve any problem. The only way to solve these kind of problems is through dialogue and through peaceful means and through negotiations with the other party.
Scott Bates in Doha, let's bring you back in briefly here before we go to a break. What's your response to those who say that the PKK wants to provoke Turkey into military action to undermine its relations with the US and the EU?
Well, that's absolutely what they do want. They want attention to their cause, and they do want to provoke an overreaction by the Turks, and that's why cool heads must prevail in Ankara for Turkey to be successful on their counterterrorism mission.
OK, gentlemen, stay with us, won't you? Because it's time for a short break now. But when we come back, we'll take a look at Washington's influence and the wider regional impact of the crisis. Stay with us.